and welcome to Cooking with Squirrel. If you're new here, I'm the Squirrel. Today is one of my favorite recipes that I've ever created. I took a mushroom onion Swiss burger, which you may have seen at some of the fast food joints. They were popular for a while, and I turned that into a soup. So we're going to get all those same flavors in a soup. We use some sodium citrate to make a really nice, creamy, smooth sauce out of the Swiss cheese. We're going to caramelize some onions. We're going to make some smash burgers and cut them up into bite-sized bits. Saute some mushrooms, serve it in a bread bowl. Let's get into it. First thing we're gonna do is prep our onions, but if you notice there was some wine in the ingredients before, that's for the dish. The whiskey's for me. Editor, if you want to give them a punch in on the bottle, that's a Noble Hound Dark Rye. I love it. It's a Virginia distillery. It's a port finished whiskey. It's delicious. Give it a shot if you can get it. Whiskey it is. Now, onions. We're gonna top and tail these, split them and peel them. So, top, tail. Get this one to tail, halve, peel, and when we get the funkier outer layers off, oh, these are particularly vicious onions. Y'all about to see some squirrel tears. There we go, board's cleaned up. Now, we're just gonna cut these into about 1/4 inch strips. So, pole to pole so they hold together better. You don't want that. I made a mistake there. There's too much root. I should have taken a little more root off. So those are all still stuck together, and we don't want that to happen. All right, there's our onions done. You don't have to use white onions. You can pretty much use any kind of onions you want. You just try and get the same kind of volume as 2 large white onions. You could use 2 large red onions. You could use sweet onions. You could use yellow onions. It's really just a matter of, they're all going to caramelize down pretty well. I've done some where I've mixed them up, used different blends. Not sure I can tell the difference, so I'm just going all white this time. Let me clear this down and we'll get to our mushrooms. All right, so for the mushrooms, I prefer a paring knife. We're gonna do these very simpler. We're just gonna quarter them. You can cut some of the stem off because it gets a little dry on the end, but because these are going into a soup, I think it's totally fine. I'm not gonna waste any of them. So we'll just split them in half, then quarter. That's all we're doing. I did wash these previously because of the way I cooked them. There's no problem washing them. The extra water's not going to be a problem. We're going to cook all that off. If they're especially funky or kind of a longer stem, I might trim just a tiny bit off. It's kind of a preference thing. Doesn't really matter. This brings up one of my other favorite kitchen tools, which is a bench scraper. These are fantastic. This is kind of a fancy metal one, but there's really cheap plastic ones that do a similar job. This one's got some measuring on it, but they help you move food really nicely. So I keep one around all the time. That's our mushrooms done. Set these aside. Compost a couple little stems that I chopped off there. Missed the compost bowl. All right, so for this dish we have 2 kinds of Swiss cheese. We have Jarlsberg, which is a cheaper per pound kind of mild-ish Swiss cheese, aka alpine cheese. And then we have Ementaler, which is fantastic. It's older, much stronger. So we're gonna use about 4 ounces of this. This is about 8, so we'll use about half of this. And this will punch up the Swiss cheese flavor significantly. It's significantly more expensive, but it keeps us from having to use, this makes it so that cheaper. We just use a little bit of this to punch up the flavor. So let's get into this. My Ementaler open. And I'm gonna go and start with that. I like this grater because it has this base on it, which allows you to pick it up and move it around. Probably don't really need it for what we're doing right now, but I'll show you how it works. That's about half. Now, one thing I have learned with this dish is because we're dissolving the cheese with sodium citrate, this rind, while it's edible, is much more difficult to dissolve. It will eventually dissolve with the sodium citrate, but it takes a long time. So I stay away from that. You'll see I trimmed that hard rind off of the Jarlsberg, so only have nice soft cheese. So that's a big thing. It's not that big of a deal. It's just a texture thing, so your choice. Deal with it or just stick with the softer stuff. So that's that. And now we have Ementaler right there, and then I can go shaboink, drop my Ementaler, and I'll knock out the rest of this Jarlsberg. And when your piece gets low, don't grate your knuckles. Have a chef snack. All right, that's our cheese grated. There we go. Nicely done. We did not miss the plate. Bring our food mover back. All right, cheese is done. Our last bit of prep is we're going to take a pound of ground beef and we're going to make just little balls out of this. We're making smash burgers, so we're going to do about 5 kind of equal sized balls out of this. They don't have to be perfect, just need to be decent little balls. Don't work them too much. And there we go, ball work done. We're going to get these seared off. We're going to get this over some medium high to high heat. There's no way around this. This is going to be smoky. Very good chance I set that alarm off. Hope I don't. So we're going to use some parchment paper. We're going to use something heavy bottomed. This stainless steel heavy bottom works really, really well, and don't need any fat in the pan. We might need to deglaze this, or otherwise it might start burning. So if we do in the middle, I'll show you that. And then once we get them smashed, we're going to throw some salt and pepper on them. So what we're looking for is for the water beads to just kind of run around. They don't sizzle. They just kind of like Leidenfrost effect, roll around on the pan. So that's hot enough. So we're going to go ahead and get our first ball in. We're going to drop one right in. Piece of parchment paper on top. Heavy bottom. Press. Get it really good and flat. We're going to smash it super thin. Just like that. And we'll save that and try and reuse it. With some salt. And pepper. I'm using this is the same pot that I'm going to cook the rest of the stuff in, so we'll keep that flavor in here if we can. It also keeps some of the splatter from getting out. My favorite spatula for smash burgers is actually a fish spatula because it's nice for scraping. And we want to get really good hard color on the first side of this. And you see it'll start to release itself as it's searing, and that's all right. That's how you cook on stainless steel pans, is if you sear something properly, it will release itself when it's done. Okay, first side, flip her over. That's great color on that. And that is cooked through already. So we're going to get that out of the pan and go on to our next one. We're not going to get as much color on the second side. That's all right. We will get that Maillard reaction on the first side. That's where your flavor is. We just want it cooked most of the way through. All right, let's get our next one in. And just rinse and repeat this until they're all done. All right, so I'm going to deglaze this because you see it's real smoky. And that happens sometimes. So we're just going to take all that and we'll use it to make our beef broth from beef bouillon later. You see we're almost done here. This is the last one. I deglazed twice. Didn't get very good footage of it, but I get a little bit off of my camera. Or my phone. You see this is a real craggly one. Not a big deal because we're going to be cutting this up into bite-sized pieces anyway. So actually the cragglier it is, the better kind of crunchy bits you're going to have. That looks fantastic. Look at that. All right, that's our last patty out. And we're going to go straight in with our onions right away. I'll turn the heat down just a little bit. You'll notice it's very loud in here because it's very smoky and I had to set up my jury-rigged fan system. I'll turn that off here shortly. We'll go ahead and toss a little bit more water in here to deglaze the little bit of beef that's on the bottom because I don't want it to burn. And that'll end up in our onions and be awesome. We're going to go ahead and add a little neutral oil also just to help those brown nicely. Maybe a tablespoon or two. You just want some good contact and the oil helps transfer the heat. I'm going to cook these down for a little bit. I'll show you kind of in phases how they go. I might actually just do some top-down stuff. Yeah, I think that'll work. All right, first check-in. We're, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes in, starting to get a little bit of color. A little dry. I might add a little oil. And at some point, if this starts sticking more, I will deglaze it. But not quite yet. All right, so you can see we're starting to get some good color. You can see we have a pretty decent amount of fond on the bottom here. So I'm going to go ahead and deglaze that a little bit. Not a lot, just a little bit of water. And that's going to help us get that up and get it back into the onions. You can see immediately that color came up, turned into kind of a sauce and starts getting absorbed into the onions. That's part of where the sugars and everything get back into the onions actually from the glaze on the bottom of the pan. Right, we got one little spot right there that we need to hit too. Don't want anything to burn, it'll get too bitter that way. And this is easier to scrape up with a wooden spoon, but I like this spoonula quite a lot. We'll get the wooden spoon. There we go, scraping it right up. And the how done you do these onions is a personal taste kind of thing. So like you could almost stop here. These are pretty tender, starting to get a lot of flavor. I'm gonna go a little bit further, a little darker. I'll see you to the next check-in. If you've made it this far in the video and you like what you see, if you could do all the YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, it really helps the channel out, helps us grow, helps the algorithm know that you like what you're seeing. So join the scurry, subscribe. All right, we are really, really close. So you can see we got another layer of really good fond. We've got some pretty good color on these onions. I'm gonna go ahead and go in with a little more water because we want to get all that flavor up. Grab the wooden spoon. Need to make a new version of this with a flat edge, which I can do because I made this one. Look at how delicious those onions look. I wish you could smell them. All right, we're gonna turn the heat off for a second. We're gonna grab our bowl, go back in here with the onions back to their original bowl. Set those aside for a little bit later. This next step you could do in parallel if you were using 2 burners, like if I was cooking on the stove. Since I'm doing this here in front of you, I'm doing them in sequence, but you could do the mushrooms in another pan separately at the same time as the onions if you're in a hurry, but maybe you don't want to wash more pans. So let's do it. All right, let's get our mushrooms, get the heat back on, medium high again, mushrooms in. We're actually going to steam these first, which closes them up and keeps them from shrinking quite so much. So we're gonna take half a cup of dry white wine, right in, turn that down a little bit, and we're gonna cover this and steam it for about 5 minutes. While that's going, we can do a couple prep steps. Onions to the side. We can take our burgers and start breaking our burgers up, which you're not gonna be able to see very well there, but I'm just gonna break these into bite-sized pieces basically. And you could use a knife, but you're gonna get nicer looking kind of chunks if you tear it. Keep in mind you want it to be able to fit on a spoon with some other bits. So you don't want them too big. And now my least favorite herb thing, which is picking thyme leaves. I hate it, but I absolutely adore thyme. I love it so much. I just wish it was easier to pick. So I know there's tons of little tools and gadgets out there, but there's only so much that they can save you. We're gonna need at least a teaspoon of fresh thyme leaves. Just start stripping. You get these little tender stems. Those aren't too bad to actually be in the dish, so you don't have to worry about those too much. Let them be in there if you like. All right, there's our 5 minutes on the mushrooms. Now you can see there's a ton of liquid in here. That is okay. We're gonna cook that off. Turn the heat up just a little. All right, we're gonna add about a teaspoon of coarse kosher salt, which I am eyeballing. Having a whiskey, looks like I need a refill. Now we're gonna cook this down until the water is almost completely gone. Then we'll add a little bit of oil. We'll brown these and then add some other stuff, including our thyme, which I'll continue working on now. I'm gonna call that my teaspoon. Check on these mushrooms, which look like they're about to cook out. You see how quick all that liquid cooked out? Very nice. Now, once it's almost completely dry, tablespoon or 2 of neutral oil, like canola or vegetable oil, corn oil, something that high smoke point, low flavor. We'll get flavor in here in different ways. While these are browning, I'm gonna go ahead and grate some garlic. A lot of garlic, I like a lot of garlic. So we're gonna do, for this pound of mushrooms, we're gonna do 3 cloves of grated garlic. And I'm actually going to grate it right onto my plate here so I can scrape it in when I'm ready to drop it. You could also mince this or use a garlic press. You just want it pretty fine because you want the flavor to get in there quick and you want it to be strong. Starting to get some color on the mushrooms, very nice. So this is the trick. You steam them first, then you cook out that liquid. You get nice plump mushrooms that you can put really good color on. There's some science behind it that's somewhere in my brain, but it has something to do with kind of like closing up the pores. I just dropped garlic all over my board. Good job, squirrel. I did just burn myself because I'm an idiot. Let's see if we can save this garlic. There we go, perfect. Oh, come on. Okay, I've got this heat turned off right now because it got way too hot. I'm gonna drop my butter in. All right, heat back on, medium low. My butter's melted. I'm gonna go in with my garlic and thyme. Oh, that smells fantastic. We only need to saute this just enough to get kind of that thyme and garlic flavor throughout. We're gonna get it well mixed in. Everything's coming together kind of quick right now, so all the beginning parts are done. I did miss a step on my onions, which we're about to fix. All right, that's good on those. Bring our pan back, get our mushrooms out. Okay, we're gonna go back in with our onions. This is not a normal step. This is what how I should have finished the onions. So the onions are going to go back in. They're supposed to get a quarter cup of red wine vinegar, which is what we should have used to the glaze at the very end before. And then we're going to stir that through, and we're going to cook these back down until they're dry again. See, even I, who wrote the recipe and have the recipe on the wall, make mistakes. It's easy enough to do. Most of the time you can make corrections. So for ease of use, I'm going to make this big bowl my dump bowl for everything, because all these items are going to go back in at the exact same time. We need to toast our bread bowl. Now, if you don't want to make your own bread bowl, I made this beautiful example. This is from a Chef John French rolls recipe, basically double size for one to make a bread bowl. If you don't want to do that, you know, go to Panera and buy a bread bowl from them. They'll sell you just a bread bowl, and you can bring it home and do this with it. Or if you can find some really big rolls at the store, try them out. Whatever works for you. You can also just make some bread chunks, toast them in the oven. You don't have to eat it in a bread bowl. All right, we are good and dry here. I like where we're at, I think. I'm gonna go out back into our big old dump pan. All right, next step. We're moving right along here. All right, so I got the oven preheating to do my bread bowls. We're gonna go in, if I can find the stock, we're gonna go in with our beef stock. So this is better than bouillon beef stock and the deglazed stuff that I got out of making the patties earlier. So we want 1 quart. Don't burn yourself with steam like I just did. Okay, that's our stock in. Now, sodium citrate. This is what makes this work. This is what makes American cheese, which is cheddar and basically milk or water. This is what makes it possible to emulsify liquids and cheeses. So we're gonna do 20 grams, which is about 1 tablespoon of sodium citrate. We're gonna go in with that. We're gonna whisk that in. Once that's well combined, we're going to take our 1 pound of Jarlsberg and 1/4 of a pound of Ementaler, and we're going to go right in with that all at one time. Oh, our tank just died on our burner. Great timing. All right, so this is probably hot enough. I'm going to give it a little stir. All right, burner reloaded. And we don't want to boil this hard, especially early. So the sodium citrate gives you a little bit of wiggle room on that, but if you boil cheese very hard, you will squeeze all the fat out from between the proteins, and then it won't want to emulsify very well. And this is not the prettiest color dish, I will give you that. It is a brown on a brown on a brown on a brown. However, it is delicious. And we'll give it some fresh herbs later. So you just want to keep whisking gently. It doesn't need to be crazy. The sodium citrate does most of the work. You just need to keep things moving around to give more surface area for the dissolving to happen. Already pretty close. So you want to keep going. You'll see some flecks of white in there. I don't know if you can see that on camera or not, but the flecks are undissolved cheese, and we want to keep going until this is perfectly smooth. And be careful about, again, going too hot on the burner, because you'll cook cheese onto the bottom of the pan, and you do not want that. And if you find for some reason that the last bits of cheese won't go, you can add a little more sodium citrate. That can help sometimes. It might be that if you have more fat in here, maybe the fat from, you know, like cooking fat got bonded with the water, so you're missing some of those bonding spots for the cheese. Maybe you need a little bit more sodium citrate to get past that. All right, so mine does look like it needs a little more sodium citrate. Got a little bit of clumping going on. I might have got it a little too hot also, so be careful of that. I'm gonna give it another maybe 5-10 grams. This is just a salt, and it's fine to eat. Definitely overheated it. All right, this is a perfect example of what not to do. We're going to get my immersion blender out, and I think that will save it. If I had not overheated it, and I don't normally make it on this burner. This burner runs a little hot. Not much left in there. Wish me luck. I think I'm going to have to put this in a different pan. I need a deeper or a narrower pan. This is exactly what not to do. I've made this a half dozen times at least. Never had this happen. Got distracted, got too hot. Let's see if we can save it. You can see we've got a separation of the liquid and this kind of a saucy cheese situation, but it's not exactly what we're looking for. Hopefully we can bring this back together with the violence of an immersion blender. All right, we're gonna go just a tiny bit of heat. Let's see what we can do here. Don't shoot it out of the pan onto the floor. Ooh, I think we're in pretty close to saving range though. All right, let's give this a check. Violence may have saved the day. Oh yeah. Okay, so this is not perfect, but it is gonna be all right. So you can see it's a little grainy, but it's gonna be edible. The recipe's not perfect. It's awesome when you hit it right. It's still gonna be very good. Yeah, everybody makes mistakes. All right, so let's switch back pans. Let's go ahead and get all of our good stuff in. Give it a mix. All right, this is looking pretty good. It's kind of coming together now. I think maybe the acid in the onions is helping get it to where it needs to be. We may be saved. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy. We're saved. I mean, it's not pretty. It's brown on brown on brown, but it is delicious. All right. Well, I am going to show you how to do the bread rolls next. So let's turn this off. I think I deserve a whiskey for saving that. I'll be right back. No, I'll pour one right now. That's a wildly heavy pour. Sláinte. Okay. All right, we're going to slide this aside. We're coming in right here with that guy. All right, here's the trick. We're going to take this. We're going to make an opening for our soup to go into. We want to come down to where we have a good wide opening, but still enough bowl to actually be a bowl. So we're going to go in at kind of like a 30-ish degree angle. The trick is you want your cut to actually meet in the center so your little cone will come out. You just keep rotating. There we go. Perfect little chunk like that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go about a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch in from the edge of the bread bowl, and we're going to cut in to create a lip. And we definitely don't want to cut all the way through the side, or we could have a structural failure. Now once you have that, the next bit is literally just going to be violence. So you're going to come poke your finger in, peel the kind of guts out of this. That's what we're looking to do. And we're going to save that for breadcrumbs. Oh, I got a little crack on the edge. Hopefully that doesn't fail on me. We'll see. Got one more bread bowl if we need it. But we're going to dump all that out. We're going to take these and make little bread chunks out of them, so we don't want to waste them. They'll go on. We'll put our bread bowl on. There we go. And this is going to go into the oven until it's nice and toasty on the tops and everything's kind of crunchy. And I'll see you when it's done. All right, our toasty boys are done. Let's get this out. There we go. Here we got a nice toast on that. And well, let's get our plate up. All right, so we have our toasted bread bowl out of the oven. Got a nice crisp on that. We're gonna go onto our plate. We're gonna leave, for aesthetic purposes, we'll leave all of our breadcrumbs to the side. Obviously, you're going to eat them in real life. I'm going to eat them in real life, but for the plating, we're gonna leave them to the side. This plating is gonna be real simple. We've got our bread bowl. We're gonna get a nice big scoop and we're gonna fill her up. And you see that we got super lucky by the application of violence and sodium citrate. We have a lovely, lovely creamy soup. We brought it back from the edge of disaster. So happy I didn't have to reshoot this whole thing again. We got a nice little dribble shot there. Okay. Now, this needs some fresh herbs. It is very, very rich. I think dill is perfect. You can use parsley. You could use maybe cilantro. I don't know. That might be a little weird, but give it a shot if you'd like to try. But I've got a nice big bunch of dill here, and I'm going to put a big old pile of it on here because I like a little bit kind of with each bite. So we're just going to have a massive pile of dill. There we go. So I'm going to throw a couple chunks of that. No longer has to be pretty because we're eating it now. All right. Now I've made this one a bunch because it did require probably more iterations than any other recipe that I've ever made. Probably 5 or 6 times. The first one was okay. Had to do some wiggles on the ratios of a lot of things. But every version's been very good. And it has been one of my most fun recipes I've ever developed. All right, we got a mushroom. We got some dill. We got some beef. Wow, that is good. If you like a mushroom, onion, and Swiss burger, this is a blast. It is so delicious. It hits all the same notes as a mushroom onion Swiss burger. It's a creamy, beefy, cheesy, oniony, super fun. And then you get to munch on this bread bowl. Try this. It's not something you should eat every week, for sure. Super rich. You shouldn't be eating this super often. There's probably a 1/4 pound of cheese in this one bowl. Don't eat it every week. Special occasions, get it. It's good. If you make this, please tag me on Instagram. Same name as it is here, Coco and Squirrel. If you have any positivity in your life, please try and pay it forward. Go out there, do something nice for somebody today. Make the world a little bit better place. God knows we need it right now. If you would like to watch some more of my videos, if you look up here, there will be a video that YouTube thinks you'll like. And if you look down here, you'll find a playlist of my food and philanthropy videos, which is why I started the channel. And they're pretty awesome. So go check those out. Some more of those coming soon. Thanks for stopping by.